Hey guys, James from Kira Point Surf School here, and today I'm going to teach you how to surf. Now, onto the pop-up technique. First of all, we need to figure out what your stance is when you're surfing. I'm a natural footer, which means my right foot is at the back of the board, left foot forward. There's also goofy footers with their left foot at the back. And it's important to figure out what that stance is. Some people are ambidextrous, which complicates things a little bit, but you really need to make sure we figure that out or try to figure that out before we go in the water. Now, before I get into any of the technique stuff with the surfing, the first important thing we need to figure out is how to lie on your surfboard. A lot of people, when they're in the water, they jump up from the back of their surfboard and crawl themselves into position. It takes way too much time and energy. And when you're surfing for an hour and a half, it can really drain the energy out of you doing that every time. That's why we put our hands in the middle of the board and just hop on from the side. Now, one of the really important things that I always teach my students is toes up chicken wings. Now, if I'm lying really far forward on my surfboard, I'm setting myself up to absolutely eat it in the water. Toes up means toes up at the back of the board, not toes up in the air, but toes up at the back of the board like this. My hands are flat with the fingers pointing forward. See my little chicken wings? And then step 1 of 3 on how to stand up is a push-up. Now, we teach a slightly different technique to a lot of other surf schools. It's all a matter of opinion. Everyone's gonna have different opinions. I'm always open to changing my technique, but we found that this technique works best for us and our students and teaches good habits from the start, because eventually you want your pop-up to look like something like this, but we do a slightly more broken down version of this, and then we work on the speed moving forward once you become more experienced and more comfortable in the water. Now, we know how to lie down on our board. Now we need to learn how to stand on our board. A very awkward technique that tends to make sense once we've worked through all of the technique is what we call a little back foot, front foot drill, which is back foot stepping forward first, front foot coming through. And we drill this with our students a few times until they get their feet into the right spot on the board. For beginners, you want your foot coming just in front of the fins, toes pointing directly across. Your front foot, 45 degrees. Just about shoulder width or a bit wider than shoulder width apart. And then a good stance happens with your back knee sort of bending in. We really want to avoid this stance here, which we call the poo man. It's actually a name for that in surfing. Okay, so let's go back. Now we know where our feet need to be. Back foot, front foot. Now we're becoming comfortable with where our feet need to be on the board and how we need to stand up. Now we need to bridge that push up with the toes up and the chicken wings with the back foot, front foot. So have a look at this. Toes up, chicken wings. We push up while looking straight ahead. Back foot comes up. Try and get your back foot as flat as possible. Front foot comes up. And notice how my hands stay down for stability. And then I just lift with my legs and my hands point to where I'm going. Both of them. It's really important to remember, if your back arm comes out here, for the most part, you're gonna fall onto your back. All right, that's a really important point to remember. Also, if your foot's not in the center of the board, you might also throw your balance off either to the left or to the right. Another really common mistake with that pop-up is looking down, push up. I look down, back foot, front foot. Do you see where my weight is going? I'm leaning forward and I'm going to face plant. So that's why we look straight ahead. Let's try that again. Toes up, chicken wings, push up. Back foot, front foot, lift with my legs, and notice how my hands are tucked in over the perimeter of the board. If we extend our arms out like this, you'll notice people wobble around on the surfboard like this. Very important to keep everything tucked in and nice and close together. Also, it's really important to remember to take your time. There are 3 steps, and I know being in the water can be really intense sometimes, but the technique stays at this pace until you've got the technique down, then you speed it up. Toes up chicken wings, and then push up for 1, back foot for 2, front foot for 3, push into your legs to come up. Very common mistakes are people bringing their feet up, they're not flat, throwing their hands up, and they lose balance. Keep your hands tucked and tight and pointing to where you are going.
Now it's time to hit the water. Few small important tips is to start slow and start in a comfortable area where you know you're not going to get smashed by the waves. A really good technique to learn if you're a very first timer or it's only your first few sessions is a little jump boost technique. I'll show you here. So basically lining your wave up and getting your board to make a letter T with the wave. And basically what you do then is you stand with both your feet on the sand, push in, make sure your toes fall on the back of the board, and then push up, back foot, front foot. Let's see that again. Line it up, make the letter T. On this one, it was a bit steeper, so I boosted out further in front, push up, back foot, front foot. I usually boost in about half to 1 meter in front of the wave. Our next technique is the sit-up and spin technique, where you slide back on your board and use your feet underwater, rotating or spinning around in circles to spin your board around. In this clip, I didn't use my hand to show you that most of the work happens from your feet. But once you get your hand involved, you can see how much quicker you spin the board around. This is a very good technique to learn because quick movements and quick reactions to the waves can often mean the difference between catching or missing a wave. Notice how I sit up and I spin around, line myself up with the wave and start paddling hard to catch the wave. The timing of your pop-up all depends on a difference between your tail being lifted up and you actually getting some forward momentum from the waves. It takes a few times to get a feel for this, but once you feel that rush down the face of the wave, that's when you should be popping up. The reason why we sit up on our board to spin it around is because when you're lying down, you never spin around in the time that you need to before the wave gets to you. Notice how I really struggle to turn the board around here and end up getting smashed by the wave, which would have been easily caught if I'd sat up, spun around and made a letter T with the wave. Now, how do we navigate waves in the ocean? It's called an Eskimo roll. Now these guys are in the way, but essentially you roll over, point your board directly at the wave, hold tight, pull yourself up towards the board, and once the white water passes over the top of you, then you spin the board back over and continue paddling. It's important to remember this video is targeted towards beginners and very first timers, or people with not much experience in the water. It's super important to remember to remain safe in the water and always double check conditions and make sure you're not out of your depth, because surfing can be a very dangerous sport, but is also the most rewarding sport ever once you get the hang of it. Takes a lot of fitness, a lot of trial and error, and you've got to expect to fail more than you will succeed in surfing. But when you do get it right, there really is no better feeling. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.